Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. No matter what time you're watching this, welcome, and leave a comment letting me know what town you're watching from. If this story popped up for you, it deserves to be heard. So subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more like it. The cattle were huddled under the few scraggly trees left in the pasture. I knew that meant rain, but the sky stubbornly refused to drop a single drop. Out here in rural Oklahoma near Tulsa, the weather likes to play games, promises water, but only delivers red dust that sticks in your throat. It had been 3 years since Martha passed. 3 years since the house became too big for me. Hank Martins, 56 years old, widower, no kids. Life taught me that we're born alone and die alone, but it didn't prepare me to live alone in the middle of the road. I woke up before the rooster crowed. As always, black coffee, bitter, no sugar. Martha used to say I drank coffee like it was medicine. She wasn't wrong. Everything turned into medicine after she was gone. The work on the farm, the silence of the night, even the exhaustion. I saddled up Thunder, my bay horse, and went out to check the fences on the north pasture. The red dirt roads stretched out in front of me, dividing the dry fields. The wind cut like a razor, bringing the smell of parched earth and burnt brush. That's when I heard the engine. A white pickup truck was kicking up dust in the distance, too fast for anyone who knows this road. It stopped at the old bridge, the one that crosses Willow Creek. 2 men got out. Something in my gut told me to hide. An animal instinct. I pulled back on the reins and hid behind the pecan trees. My heart started to beat differently, and that's when I heard the scream, a scream that chilled my blood. A woman's scream, a scream of desperation. I peeked through the branches. 2 men in suits were pushing a young woman towards the edge of the bridge. She fought, pleaded, but they were stronger. "Please, I beg you, I didn't do anything." Her voice echoed in the valley like a gunshot. I knew that voice, not the person, but the desperation. The same desperation I heard in my own throat when I found Martha on the kitchen floor, cold, lifeless. One of the men shoved her. She fell. The sound of her body hitting the water echoed in my chest like a punch. The pickup truck sped off, disappearing in the dust, and I stood there paralyzed, hearing only the wind and the echo of that scream. 2 minutes. Maybe 3. Enough time to change everything. I got off my horse and ran like I hadn't run in years. I tripped in the mud on the bank, scraped my knee on the rocks but kept going. My heart was beating so hard it hurt. And there she was, alive, soaked, shivering, with a twisted arm and scratches on her face, but alive. In her clenched hand, she held a Saint Mary medallion, as if it were her last hope. She looked at me with the most frightened eyes I'd ever seen. The eyes of a cornered animal. But she didn't run. Maybe she didn't have the strength. Maybe she knew I wasn't like those men. "Easy, miss, easy. I'm here to help." My voice came out hoarser than usual. It had been a while since I'd spoken to anyone besides the cattle and Thunder. I picked her up in my arms. She was light as a child. I felt her body trembling from cold and fear, and there in that moment, something woke up inside me, something that had been dead for 3 years. I carried the girl home as if I were carrying glass. Every step was calculated, every movement thought out. She passed out on the way, her head lolling on my shoulder, her wet hair stuck to my chest. The smell of dirty creek water mixed with fear was still on her. The house that once seemed like a tomb now needed to become a shelter. I ran to the back, to the old pantry where Martha kept the clean dish towels. I grabbed towels, a wool blanket she embroidered in the last winter she spent with me. My hands were shaking. It had been a while since I'd taken care of anyone. I laid the girl on the bed in the guest room, the one that always stayed empty. I took off her shoes carefully. They were simple, worn leather shoes that didn't match the violence she had suffered. I covered her with the blanket up to her neck. Her left arm was swollen, possibly broken. She needed help. Old Maggie, the oldest midwife in the area, the one who had delivered half the children in Tulsa. She lived 2 miles away in a small adobe house painted blue. If anyone knew how to take care of hurt people, it was her. I saddled up Thunder again and galloped over there. The sun was already high when I knocked on her door. Old Maggie appeared in an apron dusted with flour, her hands buried in bread dough. "Hank, what a surprise! It's been a while since you've been here. Maggie, I need you, urgent. There's a girl at my house hurt. I think her arm's broken." Her eyes narrowed. I knew that look. It was the same one Martha gave me when she knew I was hiding something. "What girl, Hank? Where'd she come from?" "I'll explain later. Can you come?" She wiped her hands on her apron and grabbed the old leather bag where she kept her home remedies. They both climbed on the horse, her on the back, holding tight to my waist. During the ride, I felt the weight of the silence. Old Maggie didn't ask questions, but I knew they were coming. In my head, I replayed the scene on the bridge. Who were those men? Why did they do that? And why was I, who for 3 years had been avoiding any human contact, now running to get help for a stranger? When we got home, the girl was still asleep. Old Maggie examined her with the patience of someone who has seen it all in this life. She felt her arm, looked at the wounds, checked to see if there was anything more serious. "Dislocated arm, not broken. It'll hurt for a few days, but it'll heal. These wounds on her face are scratches from rocks. She fell somewhere with gravel. Fell in Willow Creek." "Hank," her voice became serious, "nobody falls into Willow Creek alone. It's shallow there, there's nowhere to fall." I took a deep breath. There was no hiding it. "They threw her off the bridge." Old Maggie stopped what she was doing. She looked at me with an expression I'd never seen on her face. Fear mixed with anger. "Who?" "2 men. I didn't recognize them." "That's a lie, Hank. You know everyone around here. Who were they?" I looked at the sleeping girl. So fragile there, so small. Old Maggie was right. I knew who they were, or at least I suspected. But speaking meant entering a war that I didn't know if I was prepared to face. We'll talk about it later. Right now, she needs care. Old Maggie put the girl's arm back in place with a quick, precise movement. She groaned, moved her head, but didn't wake up. Then, the midwife cleaned the wounds with warm water and applied an ointment that smelled of arnica. "She'll be all right, but she needs rest and food. She's too thin." When old Maggie left, I promised I'd call her if the girl got worse. I sat there in the chair next to the bed, watching her sleep. The St. Mary medallion sparkled on her chest, rising and falling with her breath. Who was she? Where did she come from? Why would anyone do that to such a defenseless creature? The questions swirled in my head like vultures over carrion, but one thing I knew. This girl had stirred something inside me, something I thought had died with Martha. When the sun went down, I lit the kerosene lamp. The yellowish light danced on the walls, creating shadows that seemed to embrace the sleeping girl. For the first time in 3 years, the house didn't feel empty. I fell asleep right there in the chair, and I dreamed of Martha. She was in the kitchen making coffee, smiling at me. But when I woke up, it wasn't the smell of coffee that I smelled. It was the smell of fear. The girl was awake, huddled in the corner of the bed, her eyes wide with terror. She looked at me as if I were one of the men who had thrown her off the bridge. "Easy, miss. Easy. I'm not going to hurt you." My voice came out lower than usual. I didn't want to scare her more than she already was. Where am I?" Her voice was a broken whisper. "At my house. You're safe." She looked around, recognizing the room. Then she looked at me into my eyes. And she must have seen something there, because her body relaxed a little. You saved me." It wasn't a question. It was a statement, as if she knew instinctively that I wasn't a threat. "What's your name?" Lisa Santos." "I'm Hank. Hank Martins. This is my ranch." She tried to sit up but groaned in pain. Her arm still hurt. "Don't force it, you're hurt." "Thank you." She squeezed the medallion between her fingers. "Thank you so much." And that's how our conversation started. slowly, between pauses of pain and silences filled with fear. She told me she was 19 years old, that she lived with her father until he died 6 months ago, that she had no one else in the world. But about the men who threw her off the bridge, she didn't say. Not yet. I saw in her eyes that there was more to the story, much more. And I had time. For the first time in 3 years, I had time for someone besides myself. 2 days passed before Lisa was able to get out of bed. I spent the mornings taking care of the cattle and the afternoons sitting on the porch, listening to the sounds coming from the room. She cried softly, thinking I couldn't hear, but I heard everything. Every sigh, every moan of pain, every time she called out for someone named Dad in her sleep. On the third morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee. Real coffee, not that black bitter water I made. I went down to the kitchen and there she was, standing, stirring a pot of grits. Her arm was still immobilized in a sling that I made myself out of a cloth, but she used her good hand with the skill of someone who knew how to cook. "Good morning, Mr. Martins." "Good morning. You didn't need to do anything. You're still recovering." "Yes, I did." She looked at me firmly. "You saved me. It's the least I can do." We sat down to eat in silence. The grits were sweet, with cinnamon the way Martha made them. But it didn't bring me sadness. It brought a strange feeling, as if the house had started breathing again. "Mr. Martins." She stirred the grits in her spoon, without the courage to look at me. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you have family?" I did. "My wife died 3 years ago. Cancer. I'm so sorry. And you? Just your father?" She stopped, stirring the grits, her eyes filled with tears. "Just him. My mother died when I was born. My father raised us alone." "Us?" "Me and my older sister. But she got married and moved to Chicago, doesn't talk to me anymore." I saw it was time to get closer to the truth, but carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. "Lisa, can you tell me what happened that day? Who were those men?" She dropped the spoon. Her hands started to shake. I don't know if I can. I'm afraid." "Afraid of what?" "That they'll come back. That they'll do to you what they wanted to do to me." "What did they want to do?" The silence that followed was heavy as lead. Lisa got up from the table and went to the window. She stood there, looking at the fields, squeezing the medallion between her fingers. "My father worked for the Caldwell family. Ever heard of them?" I felt the blood run cold in my veins. Of course I knew them. Caldwell was one of the most powerful men in the area, owner of 5 ranches, county commissioner for 3 terms, tentacles everywhere there was money or power. I know them. When my father died, Caldwell said he would take care of me, that I didn't need to worry about anything, that he would give me work, a house, food. He seemed like an angel. She gave a bitter laugh. "Angel? What a joke! What did he do?" "He said I was going to live in the big house, that I was going to be like a daughter to him. But that's not what he wanted." The words came out slowly, as if each one cut her throat. "He wanted me to marry his son, Randy, a 30-year-old guy, married with 2 kids. But Caldwell said it didn't matter, that I was going to be the second wife, that I was going to give the family male grandchildren. And you refused." "I refused. I said I wasn't going to marry a married man, that I wasn't going to be anyone's mistress, that I'd rather work in the fields, clean pigsties, anything, but not that." Lisa turned to me. Her eyes were red, but her voice was firm. Then he showed who he really was. He said I had no choice, that it was that or the street, that without him I wouldn't last a week. "And you left." "I left. I took the little that was mine and went to live in an abandoned shack near the cemetery. I worked as a maid in the houses in town, washed clothes, anything to earn a few bucks. But he didn't give up. He didn't give up. He sent people after me, first offering money, then threatening. He said I was going to end up badly if I didn't come back, that a pretty girl alone in the world doesn't last long." She came back to the table, but didn't sit down. She stood there leaning on the chair. Until last week, he himself appeared at my house with his son and 2 thugs. He said the game was over, that I had 3 days to agree to marry him or they were going to make me agree by force. Jesus Christ. I ran away. I took the little that I had and left in the middle of the night. I thought about going to Chicago looking for my sister, but I didn't have money for the ticket. I walked along the road, hitchhiking, and they found you. They found me. They stopped next to me and said I was going to come back, whether I wanted to or not. That if it wasn't the good way, it was going to be the bad way. They threw me inside the pickup truck. Lisa sat down, finally. The tears flowed silently down her face. They took me to the bridge. They said I had 2 options: go back and agree to marry, or never bother the Caldwell family again, that girls who are too stubborn sometimes need to learn the lesson the hard way. And they threw you. Caldwell himself said, "Let's see if you still prefer the street." And he pushed me. I was silent. Inside me, an anger that I hadn't felt in a long time began to grow. Anger at those men, anger at the cowardice, anger at the impunity. Lisa, are you sure it was them? I am. I knew them all. Caldwell, his son, and 2 thugs who are always with them. Do you have any way to prove it? Prove it how? Who's going to believe the word of an orphan against the word of Caldwell? She was right. I knew that reality. In the countryside, the word of a poor person is worthless against the word of a rich person, especially when the rich person has half the politicians in his pocket. Lisa, you need to get out of here. I know, but I have nowhere to go. Yes, you do. You stay here with me until we figure something out. She looked at me surprised. You don't understand. They're dangerous. If they find out I'm here, they'll hurt you too. Let me worry about that. But Mr. Martins, Lisa, I looked into her eyes. I saw those men throw you off the bridge. I saw you almost die. Now you're here at my house, safe. And as long as you're here, no one will hurt you. No one. She lowered her head. When she raised it, there was something different in her eyes. It wasn't fear anymore. It was hope. Why are you doing this? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. I thought about the answer. I thought about Martha, the 3 years of solitude, the emptiness I carried in my chest. I thought about that girl, so young, so alone, facing the world with only a St. Mary medallion as protection. Because sometimes we find people who need to be saved, and sometimes, by saving them, we save ourselves too. That night, after Lisa went to sleep, I stayed on the porch looking at the stars. In the distance, I heard the sound of crickets chirping. But I also heard another sound, the sound of a white pickup truck passing slowly on the road, as if it were looking for something or someone. I grabbed the shotgun that was behind the door. I had a feeling that our peace wouldn't last long. The pickup truck came back the next day, and the next. Always in the late afternoon, passing slowly by the road, like buzzards circling carrion. I pretended I was fixing the fence, but my eye never left those men. They saw me too. They knew that I knew. Lisa noticed my nervousness. She stopped going out to the yard during the day. She stayed inside the house, always near the back windows, ready to run into the woods if needed. The fear returned to her eyes. They know I'm here, don't they? She asked me on Thursday while peeling potatoes to make biscuits. They know. I should leave. You're not leaving. But inside, I knew she was right. The situation was becoming unsustainable. Caldwell wasn't a man to accept disrespect. If he wanted Lisa back, he wouldn't give up easily. It was on a Friday evening that they came. I was milking Bessie when I heard the sound of an engine approaching. It wasn't the slow pace of the other days. It was the sound of someone coming in a hurry. With anger, 2 pickup trucks stopped in front of the house. 6 men got out. I recognized Caldwell in the front, a short, fat man in a cowboy hat and a prominent belly. Next to him, a tall, skinny guy who must have been the son. The other 4 were thugs, tough men used to solving problems with force. I left the corral with the shotgun in my hand. I didn't point it at anyone, but I made it clear that it was there. "Good afternoon, Caldwell." "Good afternoon, Hank." His voice was calm, but his eyes were as cold as ice. "I came here to resolve a misunderstanding." "What misunderstanding?" "You're harboring my property." "Property?" "The girl, Lisa. She belongs to me." I felt the blood boil in my veins. "People don't belong to anyone, Caldwell." "Yes, they do. I supported her father for 10 years. I paid for medicine, doctor, burial. Now she owes me, and she's going to pay." "She doesn't owe you anything." "Yes, she does. And you're going to hand her over to me now, or you're going to have a problem." His son took a step forward. "Dad, stop talking. Grab the girl and let's go." I raised the shotgun. I didn't point it at anyone, but the message was given. "No one is taking anyone here." That's when I heard her voice behind me. "Let it go, Mr. Martins." "I'll go." Lisa had come out of the house. She was walking slowly, her arms still in the sling, her head held high, but I saw the trembling in her hands. "You're not going." "I have to go. I don't want them to hurt you because of me." Caldwell smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "See, the girl has sense. She knows what's best for everyone." "Lisa, go back to the house." "I can't." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Thank you for everything, Mr. Martins. I'll never forget it." She started walking towards the pickup trucks. My heart was beating so hard in my chest that it hurt. I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't. "Lisa, stop." She stopped. She turned to me. "You're not going with them." Caldwell lost his patience. "Hank, you're sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. This girl is coming with me, whether she wants to or not. And if you keep getting in the way, you're going to end up like her father." "What do you mean, like her father?" "The old man died of heart failure, didn't he?" Caldwell's smile widened. "Hearts sometimes stop when a person gets too nervous, too scared." I felt the world spinning around me. He was saying that, "You killed her father." "I didn't kill anyone. The man died alone, but he died knowing that his daughter was going to be well taken care of, that she was going to have a guaranteed future in my family." Lisa let out a scream of pure pain, of despair. She ran back to me. "You killed my father, murderer, bastard!" "Calm down, girl. Your father was old anyway. It was a matter of time." She tried to throw herself on Caldwell, but I held her back. She was out of her mind, screaming, cursing. All the hatred she had been holding back was coming out at once. That's when Caldwell's son lost his patience. He pulled out a pistol. "Enough of this nonsense. Let's take the girl now." "Put that gun away, kid." "I'm not putting anything away. You two are going to stop fooling around," and the shot echoed in the valley like thunder. But it wasn't his pistol that fired. It was my shotgun. I hit the ground right between his feet. The dirt flew up. He jumped back, almost fell. The pistol flew away. "The next one won't be on the ground." The silence that followed was total. Only the echo of the shot reverberating in the distant mountains. Caldwell looked at me with pure hatred. "You don't know what you've just done, Hank." "Yes, I do. I defended my property. I defended a defenseless girl. I did what any good man would do. You're going to regret this." "Maybe, but not today." They left. But before getting in the pickup truck, Caldwell shouted, "This isn't going to stay like this, Hank. You messed with the wrong family." When the dust settled, Lisa and I stood there in the middle of the yard, embraced. She was trembling like a leaf in the wind. I was trembling too, but with anger. "They killed my father," she whispered in my ear. I know. What are we going to do?" I looked at the horizon, where the pickup trucks had disappeared. I knew they were coming back, and next time, they wouldn't just come to talk. "We're going to survive, Lisa, and we're going to make them pay for what they did." That night, I couldn't sleep. I stayed on the porch, with the shotgun in my lap, listening to every noise of the night. The wind in the trees, the chirping of the crickets, the distant mooing of the cattle, and around 2 in the morning, I heard another sound, the sound of an engine, Several engines. They were coming back. I woke Lisa up with a start. Get up. They're back. How many are there? Many. Through the window, we saw the headlights approaching. 3, 4 pickup trucks. Maybe more. They were coming slowly, like wolves circling their prey. Lisa, do you know the woods behind the house? I know them. Then run. Go to the woods and don't come back until I call you. And you? I'll stay. No, I'm not going to leave you alone. Yes, you are. I grabbed her by the shoulders. Lisa, if anything happens to me, you go to the sheriff in Tulsa. Tell him everything that happened. Everything. Got it? Mr. Martins, go. She ran to the back of the house. I heard the kitchen door slamming. Seconds later, the sound of her disappearing into the woods. The pickup truck stopped in front of the house. Many voices, many men, some drunk from the tone of the conversations. Someone knocked on the door, hard. Hank, open this door. It was Caldwell's voice, but different, louder, more dangerous. This is my house. I'll come in when I want. You're not coming in. Then we'll break it down. I heard the sound of wood being broken. They were breaking down the back door. I grabbed the shotgun and positioned myself in the middle of the living room. If they were going to come in, they were going to come in over my body. The door opened. The first man who appeared took a shot of rock salt in the chest. He ran out, yelling, "Son of a bitch! He shot me!" "Calm down. It's just rock salt. Let's all go together." But I only had 2 shells left. When they found that out, I was lost. That's when I heard a sound I'll never forget. A police siren. The men stopped. They whispered among themselves. Someone shouted, "Police! Everyone to the woods!" In seconds, I heard the sound of pickup trucks starting, of men running, of total confusion. When everything was quiet, I felt my legs shaking. I sat on the floor, leaning against the wall. I was alive. I didn't know how, but I was alive. The front door opened. A military policeman I knew came in. Sergeant Miller, a good, honest man. "Mr. Martins, are you all right?" "I'm alive. Old Maggie called us. She said she'd seen a lot of suspicious activity here. She came running to warn us at the station." Old Maggie, the midwife. She had realized the danger and called for help. "Where's the girl?" asked the sergeant. "In the woods, hidden." I went to the back and shouted, "Lisa, you can come. The police are here." She appeared among the trees, dirty with dirt, with leaves in her hair, but alive, whole. She ran to me and hugged me as if I were the last person in the world. "I thought they had killed you." "Not yet, girl, not yet." That night, we told Sergeant Miller everything. He listened in silence, taking notes. When we finished, he shook his head. "This is a case for the FBI. Caldwell has tentacles everywhere. But you have my word. As long as I'm in this area, nothing will happen to you." When the sun rose, Lisa and I were sitting on the porch, watching the golden light spreading across the fields. We were alive. We were together. And for the first time, I felt like I wasn't alone in the world. "Mr. Martins, what is it, girl? Thank you for not handing me over to them." "You don't need to thank me." "Yes, I do. You risked your life for me." I looked at her, so young, so brave, facing the world with only a St. Mary medallion as protection. "Lisa, you're too strong to surrender to others. Don't let anyone break you." "What if they come back?" "If they come back, we'll face them. Together." She smiled. The first real smile I had seen on her face. Together. In that moment, I knew that my life had changed forever. I was no longer a lonely man, waiting for death to arrive. I was someone who had something to fight for, someone to protect, someone who reminded me that there was still goodness in the world. The war against Caldwell was just beginning, but I wasn't alone to face it anymore. 3 weeks passed in silence. Caldwell disappeared like a snake in the grass. His pickup trucks no longer appeared on the road, but I knew that was the calm before the storm. A man like him doesn't forget, doesn't forgive. Lisa blossomed in those weeks. Her arm healed completely. The scratches turned into just memories on her skin. She took care of the house as if she owned it, planted a herb garden behind the kitchen, sewed new curtains for the living room. The house that once seemed like a tomb now had life. In the mornings, she woke up before me and made coffee. In the afternoons, she helped me with the cattle. In the evenings, we sat on the porch and talked. She told me stories of her father. I told stories of Martha. Little by little, our pain was mixing and becoming something smaller, something bearable. But it was on a Thursday in August that everything changed. I was fixing the gate of the corral when I saw old Maggie coming down the road. She was coming in a hurry, her face worried. When she got close, I saw that she was crying. "Hank, thank God I found you." "What is it, old Maggie?" "It's Sergeant Miller. He died." I felt the world collapsing. "How do you mean died?" "They found him on the road to Tulsa. He flipped his car on a curve. They say it was an accident, but it wasn't an accident. Everyone knows it wasn't. He had been investigating some of Caldwell's things, asking questions, requesting documents. Yesterday, he told me that he had discovered serious things." Lisa appeared at the door of the house. She saw our expression and came running. "What happened?" "They killed Sergeant Miller." The color drained from her face. "Then they're coming back." "They're coming back," said old Maggie. "And now there's no one to protect you. The new sergeant who arrived is sponsored by Caldwell." I sat on the fence, trying to organize my thoughts. Without Sergeant Miller, we were alone. Worse than alone. We were marked. "Old Maggie, do you know what the sergeant had discovered?" "I know. He told me last week. It seems that Caldwell has been embezzling money from the city. Works that never existed, ghost employees, that kind of thing. Millions of dollars. And is there any way to prove it?" "He had it. The sergeant said he had documents. But now they've disappeared along with him." That night, Lisa and I stayed up late, talking about what to do. Running away seemed like the most sensible option. To take the little we had and disappear into the world. To go to Chicago, to LA, anywhere far away from there. But there was something in me that refused to run. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was the certainty that if we didn't stop Caldwell, he would continue destroying lives. "Mr. Martins," said Lisa, lying next to me in the double bed we now shared, "if we stay, we can die. Maybe. And if we leave, we can live. Maybe." So why don't you want to leave?" I thought about the answer. I thought about Sergeant Miller, a good man, killed for doing what was right. I thought about Lisa's father, killed for not agreeing to hand over his daughter. I thought about how many other people Caldwell had destroyed over the years. Because if everyone runs, he wins, and people like him can't win. But there's only two of us. He has money, thugs, politicians in his pocket. He does. But we have something he doesn't have. What? The truth. The following Friday, I did something I hadn't done in years. I dressed in the good clothes I used to wear on Sundays when Martha was alive, combed my hair with pomade, and went to Tulsa. Lisa came with me. Our destination was the office of Dr. Robert Anderson, a young lawyer who had a reputation for being honest. Son of small shopkeepers, graduated with a scholarship, he was one of the few in the city who wasn't afraid of Caldwell. When we entered his office, a small cubicle on a side street, Dr. Anderson greeted us with curiosity. He must have been about 30 years old, thick-rimmed glasses, the look of someone who studies a lot. "How can I help you?" Lisa told the whole story, from beginning to end. The forced marriage, the death of her father, the attempted murder, the attack on my farm. Dr. Anderson listened in silence, taking notes. "It's a serious story," he said when she finished, "but complicated to prove." "Why?" "Because it's your word against his. And let's face it, Caldwell has a lot more credibility in the local court. So, there's no way." "I didn't say that." He leaned back in his chair. "I said it's complicated, but not impossible." "What do you suggest?" "We need evidence. Documents, witnesses, physical evidence, something that proves that Caldwell is what you say he is. Like the embezzlement? Dr. Anderson's eyes widened. You know about embezzlement? Sergeant Miller was investigating. He said he had discovered serious things. And where are these discoveries? Everything disappeared when he died. I understand. Dr. Anderson became thoughtful. But if the sergeant discovered it once, it means the evidence still exists. We just need to know where to look. Would you be willing to help us? I would, but you need to understand. If we mess with Caldwell, there's no turning back. It's total war. I looked at Lisa. She looked back at me. In her eyes, I saw the same determination I felt in my chest. The war has already begun, Doctor. We just want a chance to fight back. We left the office with a plan. Dr. Anderson would investigate the city contracts of the last 5 years. He would look for irregularities, phantom projects, fraudulent bidding. Lisa and I would look for witnesses, people who had been harmed by Caldwell, but who never had the courage to speak. It wasn't going to be easy. In the countryside, the law of silence is sacred. Those who talk too much end up badly, but we also knew that behind the fear there was anger, a lot of accumulated anger. We just needed to give it a little push to bring it to the surface. We started with Mrs. Johnson, a 70-year-old woman who lived in a small house by the river. She had lost her husband in a project of Caldwell's. Officially, it was a work accident. Unofficially, it was pure negligence. I know it was his fault, said Mrs. Johnson, serving coffee in a chipped cup. My Anthony told me that the project was trash, weak cement, scrap iron, all to save money. When the wall collapsed, it killed 3 men. Did you report it? I did, but Caldwell said he would take care of the families of the dead. He gave a small pension to each one. Insignificant, but it was better than nothing. And now? Now the pension is over. They say there's no more money, but I see Caldwell building a new house, buying a new car. There's money. For what interests him, there always is. Mrs. Johnson agreed to testify. She was the first of many. In the following days, we traveled the entire region. We talked to former city employees fired without just cause, with merchants who had to pay bribes to get permits, with families evicted from their lands to make way for Caldwell's enterprises. With each testimony, the picture became clearer. Caldwell wasn't just a powerful man. He was a criminal, a suit-and-tie bandit who robbed the public treasury and trampled on anyone who got in the way of his business. But it was when we talked to Mr. Thompson, former city accountant, that we had the most important revelation. I have the evidence, he said, looking around as if someone could be listening. I kept a copy of everything before being fired. I knew I would need it one day. What kind of evidence? False spreadsheets, invoices from companies that don't exist, suspicious bank transfers, everything. Why didn't you ever report it? Because I have a family, I'm afraid. But after what happened to Sergeant Miller, would you be willing to give this evidence to Dr. Anderson? Mr. Thompson was silent for long seconds. When he spoke, his voice was trembling. If you guarantee that my family will be protected, I'll give it to you. We guarantee it. That night, we returned home with a folder full of documents, enough evidence to put Caldwell in jail for decades. But we also knew that from that moment on, there was no turning back. Lisa, I said, hiding the documents in a hiding place behind the wood stove, are you sure you want to do this? I am. She held my hand. My father deserves justice. Sergeant Miller deserves justice. And all those people we talked to deserve justice. It could go wrong. We could lose everything. We've already lost everything once. And we survived. If necessary, we'll survive again. I looked at that 19-year-old girl, so young and at the same time so wise. In a few months, she had taught me that living is not just breathing. It's fighting for what's right. It's protecting those who need to be protected. It's not bowing your head when injustice knocks on the door. Then let's go all the way. Let's go all the way. On the following Monday, Dr. Anderson filed the complaint with the U.S. Attorney's Office. It was a 200-page dossier with detailed evidence of corruption, embezzlement, racketeering, and homicide. Caldwell's name was on every page. When the news reached his ears on Tuesday, the reaction was immediate. At 8 o'clock at night, we were having dinner when we heard the sound of engines, many engines. I looked out the window and saw at least 10 pickup trucks surrounding the house. "Lisa, go to the room and lock yourself in. I'm not going to leave you alone." "Go!" She obeyed reluctantly. I grabbed the shotgun and positioned myself in the living room. This time, there was no Sergeant Miller to save me. This time, I was on my own. Someone shouted outside, "Hank, you have 10 seconds to hand over the documents. 10 seconds. I don't have any documents. Liar, 5 seconds. You can count to 1,000. I'm not handing over anything." The silence that followed was deadly. I knew they were going to attack. I knew that this time they weren't just coming to talk. That's when I heard the sound that saved me. Helicopter. A helicopter from the FBI landed in the middle of the yard, raising a cloud of dust. 10 men jumped out, all armed, all with bulletproof vests. Caldwell's pickup truck sped off like cockroaches when the light comes on. The FBI agent who entered my house was a serious man, about 40 years old. "Mr. Martins, I'm Agent Davis from the FBI. We received your complaint. We came here to guarantee your safety and arrest Caldwell. He's not here. I know, but we know where he is." That night, we watched from the porch the operation that changed the history of the region. Caldwell was arrested at home, in his pajamas, in front of his family. Along with him, his son, the thugs, and 3 more city councillors involved in the scheme were arrested. The embezzled money was estimated at more than $20 million. When the sun rose, Lisa and I were free. Finally free. "It's over," I whispered in her ear. "It's over," she replied, crying with relief. But I knew it wasn't over. It had begun. A new life had begun, a life where justice had won, where 2 people who met on the banks of a river managed to change the destiny of an entire city. A life where love had found a way to grow in the middle of pain. 6 months after Caldwell's arrest, I woke up to the smell of cornbread. It was Sunday, and Lisa had woken up early to make a special coffee. She had been doing this every week since life returned to normal, or what would be our new normal. The house was different, not only because of the new curtains or the flower pots on the porch. It was different because it had life pulsing inside it. Laughter, conversations, plans for the future, things I thought I would never have again. "Good morning, Mr. Martins." "Good morning, my flower." She smiled when she said that. She had started calling her that a few weeks ago, without realizing it. The words came out on their own and she liked it. She said that no one had ever given her a loving nickname. We sat at the kitchen table, as we did every morning for half a year. But that morning, there was something different in the air, an expectation, an energy that I couldn't decipher. "Mr. Martins, can I talk to you about something?" "Of course. It's about the money." A few weeks earlier, we had received unexpected news. The U.S. Attorney's Office had managed to recover a large part of the money stolen by Caldwell, and a federal law determined that part of that money should be returned to the victims of the scheme. Mrs. Johnson received compensation for her husband. Mr. Thompson was recognized as an informant and received a bonus, and we, for having been the main complainants, received a considerable amount. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to change our lives. What did you think? I thought about doing something good with this money, something that helps other people. What kind of thing? She got up from the table and went to the drawer where we kept the important papers. She returned with a sheet of school paper, all scribbled with her handwriting. "Read to me." "It's a project." She opened the sheet on the table. "A place to welcome girls who have gone through what I went through. Orphaned girls without family, at risk." I felt my heart racing. "Go on." "It could be right here on the farm. We build some small houses in the back. We make a large garden to teach them to plant. We set up a sewing workshop. We give them education, a profession, dignity. And what did you think of calling it? Field Flowers Project. I looked at that girl who 6 months before had arrived in my life, almost dead, desperate, without any perspective. And now she was there, making plans to save other girls like her. It was as if the pain she had suffered had been transformed into strength to help others. It's a beautiful idea, Lisa. Would you agree? I would agree to anything you proposed, even if it means the house is full of people, noise, mess, hard work. I looked around our kitchen. I imagined it full of young voices, laughter, lively conversations. I imagined the whole farm moving with life, with purpose. You know what I think about that? What? I think it's exactly what this house has always needed. She smiled, that smile that melted me inside. There's one more thing. Tell me, for the project to work, we're going to have to work hard, together, every day, for the rest of our lives. And I wanted to know if you didn't want to formalize this partnership. It took me a few seconds to understand what she was suggesting. When I understood, I felt the world stop. Lisa, I know I'm young. I know you're older, more experienced. I know it may seem strange, but Stop. She stopped talking, her eyes worried. I love you, Lisa. The words came out of my mouth before I even thought about them. I've loved you since the day you woke up in that bed and smiled at me. I love your strength, your kindness, your way of seeing hope where everyone sees misfortune. And I love you. Her voice was firm, without hesitation. I love the man who saved me from the water. I love the man who risked his life to protect me. I love the man who taught me that there are still good people in the world. I got up from the chair and knelt in front of her. There was no ring, no prepared speech. I just had a heart beating fast and the certainty that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with that woman. Lisa Santos, will you marry me? I will. She didn't hesitate for a second. I accept, and I still ask. Why did it take you so long to ask? We both laughed. We laughed like two children who had just discovered that the world can be a good place. We got married 2 months later, in a simple ceremony in the Church of Tulsa. Old Maggie was the maid of honor. Dr. Anderson was the best man. Half the city attended, including all the people who had testified against Caldwell. It was as if they were celebrating not only our wedding, but the victory of justice against oppression. The Field Flowers Project started 3 months after the wedding. We built 4 small houses in the back of the property. We set up a classroom in a covered area. We made a community garden. We installed sewing machines in an improvised workshop. The first girl arrived on a December morning. Her name was Anna. She was 15 years old. She had run away from home after her stepfather tried to abuse her. She arrived suspicious, hurt inside, her eyes hard with someone who had seen too much. But little by little, she was opening up. She learned to plant tomatoes and lettuce. She learned to sew. She went back to school. And mainly she learned that there were adults in the world in whom she could trust. After Anna came Joanna. After Joanna, Maria. After Maria, Conception. One after the other, broken girls who arrived at our farm carrying pain and left carrying hope. Today, 2 years later, the project houses 14 girls. The farm that was once silent is now full of life. Early in the morning, I wake up with the sound of the girls running around the yard, yelling at each other, laughing out loud. It's the most beautiful sound I've ever heard in my life. Lisa has become a kind of mother to all of them. She teaches sewing, gives advice, takes care of the wounds of the soul with the patience of someone who has already been through it. And I became the father that some of them never had. I teach them to deal with the cattle, to fix the fence, to drive the old tractor we bought with the compensation money. Sometimes on Sunday nights, when the girls are all gathered and the farm is quiet, Lisa and I sit on the porch and talk about how life is unpredictable, how a casual encounter can change the destiny of two people, how pain, when shared, turns into strength, how love can sprout in the most unexpected places. "Remember the day we met?" she asked one of those nights, her head resting on my shoulder. "How can I forget? If someone told me that day that I was going to be happy, that I was going to have a family, that I was going to help other girls to start over, I would say that the person was crazy. And if someone told me that I was going to love again, I would say the same thing. Do you think it was a coincidence? We met like that?" I looked at the starry sky. I remembered Martha, who always said that there was no coincidence, just destiny arranging itself. I remembered Lisa's father, who died believing that his daughter was going to be all right. I remembered Sergeant Miller, who died fighting for justice. I don't know if it was a coincidence, but I know it was the most important thing that has ever happened in my life. In our lives. In our lives. That night, Lisa gave me news that changed everything again. She was pregnant. We were going to have a child who was going to grow up in a house full of love, on a farm full of girls who she was going to call sisters, in a world where justice and goodness had conquered fear and evil. "What are we going to call him?" I asked, with my hand on her still smooth belly. "If it's a girl, Hope. If it's a boy, Hank." "Why?" "Hope, because that's what you gave me when you pulled me from that water. And Hank, because it was the name of the man who taught me that it's still worth believing in people. Today, when I get up in the morning and see this farm full of life, when I hear the girls laughing in the garden, when I see Lisa teaching one of them to cross-stitch, when I feel my son kicking in his mother's belly, I understand something that took me 56 years to learn. Life isn't about what happens to us. It's about what we do with what happens to us. 2 minutes. That's all it took for me to decide to save a girl who was drowning. 2 minutes that changed not only her life and mine, but the lives of 14 girls who today have a safe place to start over. 2 minutes that transformed a silent farm into a place full of hope. Sometimes I wonder how many people pass through our lives asking for help. How many times do we have the chance to be the difference in someone's life? How many times do we choose to look the other way, pretend we didn't see, move on? I almost did that. I almost hid behind those trees and let the men take Lisa away. I almost chose the safety of a mission over the risk of compassion. But something inside me, something I thought had died with Martha, made me run to the edge of that creek, made me carry a stranger into my house, made me choose love over fear. And that choice, made in 2 minutes of despair, gave me a lifetime of joy. This morning, I woke up with Lisa calling me from the kitchen. She had made fresh coffee and cornbread. The girls were already awake, making noise in the yard. The cattle were mooing out in the pasture. The sun was coming in through the window, golden and warm. "Mr. Martins, come here. The coffee's getting cold." "I'm coming, my flower." I got out of bed slowly. I looked out the window and saw Hope, our 1-year-old daughter, crawling through the yard, surrounded by the older girls who were fighting to see who was going to take care of her. I saw the green garden, the tomato plants loaded, the chickens scratching among the beds. I saw life, a lot of life, and I understood that that dirty water from Willow Creek hadn't almost taken Lisa away. It had brought her to me. It had brought all of them to me. It had brought life back to a house that was dying of loneliness. Because sometimes that's how destiny works. Sometimes it comes disguised as tragedy. Sometimes it arrives in the form of broken people, needing to be put back together. Sometimes it knocks on the door when we least expect it, asking for only one thing, that we choose love, always love, even when it hurts, even when it's dangerous, even when it's easier to close your eyes and move on. Because in the end, it's not the grand gestures that change the world. It's the small moments of kindness, the 2 minutes of courage, the simple choices we make when no one is watching, like the choice to jump into a river to save a stranger, like the choice to open the door of your house to someone who has nowhere to go, like the choice to believe that everyone deserves a second chance. These choices, made in the silence of the heart, are the ones that build a better world. One love at a time, one life at a time, one hope at a time, and when my time comes to leave this world, I want to be remembered not as the man who almost gave up on living, but as the man who chose to start over, who chose to love a girl thrown in the water, who chose to transform his pain into strength to take care of other people. I want to be remembered as the man who understood, even if late, that no one saves themselves alone, and that all of us, in some way, are just broken people trying to put each other's pieces together until we find who teaches us that we don't need to be whole to be happy. It's enough to be together. Because in the end, it's not the grand gestures that change the world. It's the small moments of kindness, the 2 minutes of courage, the simple choices we make when no one is watching, like the choice to jump into a river to save a stranger, like the choice to open the door of your house to someone who has nowhere to go, like the choice to believe that everyone deserves a second chance. These choices, made in the silence of the heart, are the ones that build a better world. One love at a time, one life at a time, one hope at a time. All of us, in some way, are just broken people trying to put each other's pieces together until we find who teaches us that we don't need to be whole to be happy. It's enough to be together.